Well, that didn't take very long. They all got fired. The entire team over at Concord that developed that piece of crap blunder have all been fired by Sony right now. The entire team was shut down. The studio has been shut down, and the game is being permanently taken offline. Today's video comes from Vera Dark. Her channel will be linked in the description, so you can go check her out and support her. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Well, Firewalk Studios' time has come to an end because we are finding out that Sony has officially shuttered them. Now, we knew that things were not going good for Sony, for Firewalk Studios, and for Concord in totality. When you have to shutter your game only 2 weeks after release because it did such a incredibly terrible job, we basically knew that there was no hope, but there were some people thinking they were still updating the files on platforms like Steam. Maybe in a couple of months to even a year, they were going to relaunch it as a free-to-play game, but it looks like that is not happening because Sony is shutting down Firewalk Studios, the studio that, of course, created Concord. They only ever came out with one game, their first and their last. So we are finally getting the full internal email statement. And it's quite the doozy. It says, "Dear team, today I want to share some important updates from Sony Interactive Entertainment Studio Business Group. We consistently evaluate our games portfolio and status of our projects to ensure we are meeting near and long-term business priorities. As part of our ongoing efforts to strengthen SIE's studio business, we have had to make a difficult decision relating to two of our studios, Neon Koi and Firewalk Studios." They basically talk about how while mobile remains a priority growth area for the studio business, aka trying to milk people for all they're worth because they know they can predatorily monetize mobile games, we are in the very early stages of our mobile efforts, but what we really are here for, the meat and potatoes, is the discussion about Firewalk. Regarding Firewalk, as announced in earlier September, in important update on Concord, certain aspects of Concord were exceptional, but others did not land with enough players, and as a result, we took the game offline. We have spent considerable time these past few months exploring all of our options, and this is why people really expected them to relaunch it, because they, as far as we knew, put over $500 million into this game. They had to buy Firewalk, and Sony went out of their way to buy Firewalk Studios specifically for Concord, so they were banking a lot on it. We know that there is an upcoming TV show releasing where Concord was supposed to have an episode. It just seemed like this was supposed to be their next major game, an Overwatch competitor, that they were banking heavily on this. You know, hundreds of millions into buying the studio, hundreds of millions into development, but all of that now is down the drain. He talks about how after much thought, we have determined the best path forward is to permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all of Firewalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. The PvP first-person shooter genre is a competitive space that's continually evolving, and unfortunately, we did not hit our targets with this title. What did you expect? You took a game from a studio that nobody knew, you turned it into modern audience slop, and then you pumped it out at a, let's be honest, outdated price structure. I was all for it being $40 instead of $70, but you were talking about a pricing structure that flew a decade ago. That's what Overwatch launched with, was $40, loot boxes, cosmetics, etc. What they should have done was launch this as a free-to-play game, had a lot of different cosmetics and loot boxes and, you know, paid bells and whistles, and more people would have shown up. But instead, that's not what they did. And then on top of all of that, you had the terrible map designs, you had the terrible character designs, and instead of just admitting, hey, we totally misunderstood what gamers actually want, they just say that they, didn't hit their targets. And unfortunately, this is a space that's constantly growing.
So the entire situation is pretty darn interesting. They've been shut down. Sony has basically pulled the plug. They're not coming back from what we can see. They've all been fired. All the employees at the studio are now being given their pink slips. And I find this situation very intriguing because I'm telling you guys right off the bat, this is not the end. Most of the games that Sony has in development right now are geared towards a modern audience. So, for example, Ghost of Yotai, or Yote, however the heck you pronounce it, it stars a non-binary protagonist, which is just very interesting. So, a non-binary protagonist, and the game is set, hundreds of years ago in like the 16th century or something like that. I just don't know about this, guys. And of course, it's being designed for a modern audience. Evidently, the game was originally being designed as a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, so it would have starred Jin. But no, they decided to gut it and then give it to an all-female development team. And again, it is for a modern audience. So now I expect that to be a complete or heavily a failure. It seems as though the engine was originally designed by the original team that were working on it, and then it was transferred over to an entirely new team of female developers and rebranded with a female lead, non-binary female lead. The point I'm trying to make is that when you consider these factors, these are woke games, extremely woke games, and don't really expect at all for these titles to stop coming, because Sony has been developing these games for years. Concord was in development for about 10 years, roughly 10 years. So they had planned to go down this woke direction for 10 years ago. All of these television series that are coming out right now, like Tomb Raider, I mean, that's something that has likely been in development at Netflix for, again, anywhere from 5 to 10 years. It takes a long time to get these projects off the ground. So they knew what they were doing. Obviously in the series, Lara is now in a same sex relationship. Her best friend, who was originally a ladies' man, he is now also gay. Everything has been flipped. Lara Croft, who was known to be voluptuous and very feminine, even though extremely strong. Like she jumping into caves. She spends most of the series, it's the anime, crying, breaking down into tears. She is flat chested. She has no real feminine features. She's wearing sneakers at a party. It's actually quite gross. They've completely stripped away her femininity. She no longer looks like what a normal WOMAN would look like. There's no traits of femininity left to her. It's a really, really gross thing. People have begun calling her Larry Croft instead of Lara Croft. She has virtually no chest anymore, so it's now completely flat. She looks very much like a man, and not like her slender physique that she once had back in the 90s. So they've destroyed everything. They're destroying everything that we love. They want to destroy every male space. They don't want men. This is what a lot of the liberated women say, that there should be no spaces that are predominantly men. Men, because guys, they want to divide us. You have to understand that these people, women are not our enemy, but there are people, who operate as agents of the state, and the Sims, for example, are all sick. I've told you plenty of times the Sims are evil individuals. The Sims are, these are things that are lower than cockroaches. The simp, ISMP. They are wicked, disgusting, villainous creatures. Okay? They know who they are. They think it's funny. They don't understand. I'm telling y'all right now. They think that we are weak as men. They think because they see all the garbage that's happened. They see how because they don't like us. You have to understand, the simps hate men. There are different kinds of simps, and some of you are simps that want to try to save these people. If you speak to a man and you explain to him how his behavior is affecting him and others around him, and you let him know what's going on, and he does not want to listen, stop trying to save him. It's like, I don't know what you're doing on my channel, because you already understand, you already got the message. Stop trying to save women who don't want to be saved. Why the heck are you trying to save men who do not want to be saved? Some of you all are just damn near delusional, and you don't learn your lessons until you suffer. I've had some of you who've been, you didn't learn your lessons until you couldn't deal with family members anymore. You have brothers who are Sims, fathers who are Sims, and you didn't learn your lesson until it started to personally affect you. And that's when you get it. That's when you pull back and you walk away, or you go your own way. And you come and, oh, Angry Sama, Uncle Angry. You can say Angry Sama. Uncle Angry is a term of endearment. All right? Uncle Angry are for people who respected me from the very beginning, not who challenged me or were talking crap to me. Okay? Uncle Angry is when you come to me and I will show you love. That's Uncle Angry. Okay? Angry Sama. Again, if you highly respected me from the very beginning, a lot of people call me Angry Sama out of respect. And I will show you the same respect. And then there are those who are talking crap and running their mouths. I don't really want them coming back. I don't want them coming back. But if you do come back, you will say Angry Sama. You will be on your hands. You will be on your knees. Your head will be to the ground. Oh, I'm not doing it good. Don't come back. Don't watch my content. Leave and don't look back. Do not benefit from my content. Do not benefit from this knowledge because it wasn't out there decades ago. It wasn't out there 10 years ago. People were struggling for this stuff. Men were struggling for these answers because they didn't know what was going on. I'm just being so honest. The simp is an evil individual. We were all once simps. If you are, but as a man, you better repent for simping. You better repent. I've repented plenty of times. I've repented on these videos. I've repented on my streams. Have you repented? You need to publicly repent for simping. Publicly repent and say you will do it no more. And we will all fall. We all fall. Just like we fall short of the grace of God. You know, we will fall short of, we will fall short still. But we have to be well aware of it and we catch ourselves and we do better. But you have to understand, there are these groups of men. And no matter what guys, they choose to live this way. It's a lifestyle. It's a choice for them. These people are agents of the state. They are deliberately trying to destroy men and masculinity, and they will gaslight you indefinitely because this is a for-profit operation for them. They are rewarded for doing this. They gain access to resources. They gain access to women. Okay? This is how these bastards survive. This is how the simp survives. These are not good people. These are our enemies. You need to understand. This is your enemy. No, they are brothers. Okay, bro, get the hell out of here. You're not my brother. If you are so stupid that you want to invite a devil, you want to invite a Judas into my camp, go sit with that Judas. Go try to save him. That's not very Christ-like of you. Very Christ-like of me. Do you not remember what Judas did? What Judas did to Jesus? And Jesus forgave him. Guys, I'm telling you, these men, something is psychologically wrong with these individuals. And if I think about it, I could probably give you a bunch of reasons, but I want to know some of the reasons why you think these men exist, where no matter how bad things get, they will completely try to excuse it. You must forgive the simp indefinitely. Okay? They are still men. Let me know what you think regarding these scumbags. The video is not done yet, but I want you guys to, put in the comments down below what you think, why these men continue to defend simps. Even though they know better themselves, they continue to defend these men and trying to save these men who don't want to be saved.
And well, Concord now is no more. They are not going to relaunch it as a free-to-play game. They are completely done with it. It wouldn't shock me if in a couple of years we actually see the bones of Concord reused and they basically just reskin it and they launch a completely new game with a completely new title based on this idea. But it at least looks like that's not going to happen anytime soon if they ever potentially do that. But imagine being Sony, spending $500 million on one project and then having to completely scrap it. Like, this is what happens when you don't listen to your customers. This is what happens when you are not actively trying to do better. You are not actively trying to give people content that they genuinely want. And
now, let me just make this very, very clear. The fallout from this game, because they lost $500 million on this, 500 million, and it's just been rolling in, because there are other titles that have come out since that have also been failures. There was another game that dropped recently for the PlayStation 5, and evidently they spent something like $100 to $150 million developing that game, and it's a total flop as well. but there have been so many L's lately. You know, L stands for losses. For those of you that don't know, there have been so many L's lately. Sony has been taking so many L's lately that it flew under the radar. But yeah, there was another game that they dropped recently that was also woke garbage. It was another first, it was another game like kind of like Concord, and it just basically flopped, and they basically spent like 100 to 150 million. I thought it was less, 100 to 150 million on this game, and they're taking one loss after another loss after another loss, and it's just adding up rapidly, guys. I'm truly of the camp that PlayStation 6, by the time PlayStation 6 comes out, we will have, pricing for new games will be $80. They will be $80 because you have to remember that these people, they absolutely hate us. They do not like us. The gaming industry, modern gaming industry, despises us as gamers. They don't even want us playing games. They want to destroy everything. They want to torment us and torture us. And these companies have essentially no honor whatsoever. It's like they are deliberately trying to destroy the industry from the inside out. Sony is trying to destroy it. They're trying to indoctrinate. They're an evil and vindictive company. I supported Sony for decades. I gave my money to Sony for decades. I would have invested in Sony's stock because you want to be a part of that. You want to be a stakeholder in this. And what did they do? What have they done? They have given us garbage. They have crapped on all of the goodwill, and they have lost our trust forever. And of course, the ponies will be out there saying, "Oh, this is great. Why didn't you go and buy Concord, you punk? Why haven't you gone and bought Star Wars Outlaws, you joker? Because you guys, you soy boys, are supporting this trash. So where are you? Why aren't you going out there and celebrating it?" You have to understand, the ponies, basically the Sony fanboys, these guys that are going to continue to push this narrative. They'll say that everything is going great and everything is wonderful, even as the entire house burns down, even as Sony burns to the ground. The ponies will continue on saying this crap because they're just another form of simp. They're just another form of simp. These people are our enemies. Like, we have to be very, very well aware. We are dealing with enemies. These are not your friends. These bastards are your enemies. So I want Sony to shut her down. I want Sony to die. I want the company to crash, and I want all of their IPs to be divided. Because to be honest, if you look at what's going on with modern day Sony, they're like, we don't have any IPs, we don't have any games. There are just not enough games. Like the CEO of the company or president was like recently saying that there just aren't enough games for the PlayStation 5. Like, no duh, doofus. You have tons of IPs that you could be using and creating games from. I mean, heck, you have games like Twisted Metal, and you have characters like Sweet Tooth. You could take characters from those franchises and create entirely separate games outside of the genre that they originated from, just like Mario has done. I mean, look at what Nintendo did with Mario. It started off just as literally a guy running across the street, a plumber running across the street, jumping on, breaking blocks, landing on goopas or however you pronounce it, and then or little monsters, and then going through pipes. And they have built so many different franchises off that. Like, what was it, Dr. Mario? I think it was called Dr. Mario, which was like a Tetris clone, where you were basically dropping pills and lining them up. That was very cool. I miss Dr. Mario. Mario Kart on the Nintendo Switch is Nintendo's most popular franchise. They've sold ridiculous numbers. The game still costs $60, though you can pick it up sometimes during with bundles or on sale, and you can get it for maybe as low as, I think, $44. They don't really go that much lower than that. And this is a game that came out on the Wii U. They rebranded it as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and they've been adding multiple new courses to it for the last couple of years through a pass. And I'm just giving you this example, And they took all of this from one franchise and multiplied it into so many different areas. So Sony has tons and tons to pull from, but they don't care because the company is so desperate And it hates its player base so much that they're just going to keep on giving us one remake and one remaster after another. Like The Last of Us, they remade that game, and the sad thing about it is that it's literally just it's not a real remake. It doesn't have any real differences from the original game. They just essentially gave it a revamp in visuals, and I could have sworn that it had already gotten a remaster on the PlayStation 4. Forgive me if I'm wrong. So you basically remastered a remaster. This is not something like Dead Rising remaster, deluxe remaster, where they've changed where they've changed visuals and gameplay elements, and that's the definition of a deluxe remaster, according to, I believe it's Capcom who's developing that game. But in the case of The Last of Us, like, they did nothing different. Like, this is not a remake. This is a remaster, a 100% remaster that they're calling a remake and then selling for $70 all over again. Look at what they're doing with that other game, Horizon Zero Dawn. The game looks exactly the same. I personally think the original version is better. And this game is usually selling for like $20. Now they've jacked the price back up to 50. I made sure to pick it up recently on GOG because it was on GOG. I know they're gonna delist it. Thank God I was able to get myself a copy of it because I've never actually played the original. I've seen visuals from it, and I also do have it on Steam. I have the original on Steam, and then I also have Horizon Forbidden West. But the thing is, like, you don't own anything on Steam, so knowing that I have the digital on GOG, I can download it and do whatever the hell I want with it is very, very important for me. And they're making they're a remaster of this game that looks exactly the same. In fact, it looks worse. And I think that they're using like a female team develop. I might be wrong. They're using a team of female developers maybe to do the remaster. They're constantly replacing male developers in all of these studios with female developers. Like, it's not based on merit, it's completely based on gender. Like, guys, this is 100% gender discrimination. They're celebrating it, like they're firing all of the developers, like the Halo. Halo was developed by a bunch of guys. They've basically fired almost all of the people developing Halo, all of the men, replaced them with women, replaced the CEO and the heads of the studios with women, and this is gender equality. It has nothing to do with equal representation and everything to do with supremacy. Like, this is absolutely insane. Like, it's amazing how we don't have a course to sue these companies. Like, they have to be sued. Microsoft needs to be sued. Sony needs to be sued. These companies that are doing these things, that are engaging in these behaviors, they need to be sued. 100%. And I'm hopeful that they eventually will. But, the great thing I feel is that many of these companies that have done this, the sentiment is so bad. Like, these people who lost their jobs, these men who lost their jobs, they'll go and start new studios. They'll start developing games at home, especially with AI now and the new technology that's available, where assets are more easily available. They'll start building the spiritual successors to the games that we know and love. And we'll basically just ditch these companies that are giving us this woke trash that we don't want. And they can basically, they took BlackRock's money, but it's not going to benefit them, and they still have to pay it back, despite what you guys are like, oh, they had to take the money. Guys, it's not free money. They all have to pay this money back. They may get some golden parachutes, but these people are losing their jobs, and they're just going to end up going bankrupt. And guys, if you're enjoying the content, check out the Angry Guy Clubhouse. YouTube has been reducing or even eliminating ad revenue on many of my videos. If you want to help keep the content free and support my work, please consider becoming a paid subscriber in the Angry Guy Clubhouse. Inside, you'll get top-tier expat and passport bro travel tips, digital nomad guides, passive income strategies, pop culture and geek culture commentary, and hard-hitting manosphere content. Free subscribers have access to videos, podcasts, articles, and the community chat, plus receive the passive income blueprint and digital nomad blueprint just for subscribing, just for joining. Paid subscribers unlock even more value, including exclusive guides like the How to Build an Online Business in 24-hour ebook, wealth building blueprints, and crypto updates. Join us today by clicking the link in the description and take your journey to to the next level.
People are pointing and laughing now, saying Herman Hulst really gassed these dudes up, made Sony buy the studio just for him to close them down. Wowzers. It's so true. This was supposed to be like the piece de resistance for Herman Hulst. This was supposed to like cement his legacy at Sony. This was supposed to be a major purchase that was supposed to majorly pay off, and that did not happen. Didn't think I'd have a reason to use this one again today. The evil is defeated. I'm sure that there were a few genuinely passionate people on Concord's development team, because there's always a few good apples in every bunch, just like for games that are really good, there's always a few bad apples in every bunch. But this is what happens when you don't listen to the customers that you actually have. And also, nobody was asking for a live service game. Companies need to realize that live service titles are not the future of the industry. You need to be giving us high quality experiences that are not live service, that are monetized properly, and that genuinely are fun experiences.
Now, what I really find interesting is that I am absolutely one of the few, if not the only YouTuber talking about this right now, person who's covering these topics, saying that this is not possible for these companies to go back and just immediately get rid of the whole modern audience crap. They have entire divisions now dedicated to the modern audience. All right, just like HR, now you have all of these people in these companies like Square Enix that have infected these companies with the woke mind virus, okay? And it's very hard to get rid of them. Very, very hard. They've been developing these games for years. Concord was in development for 10 years. You know, the Tomb Raider anime likely was in development for maybe 10 years. These projects have been in development for decades, for sometimes a decade or a couple of decades. So it's not that easy to just say, flip a switch and say, okay, well, we're just going to start putting out the kinds of games that people want. It does not work like that. Ghost of Yotai, there's nothing they can really do right now to rebrand that game and to do anything different. The character models are there. You have a non-binary actress, you know, as the star of the game, and it's basically a non-binary star. Like the protagonist is a non-binary person. Okay, the game is woke, set in the 1600s, but obviously now they're trying to rewrite history. I mean, it's giving us what we never asked for. We don't want this garbage, but it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. They cannot just flip a switch and say we're not going to have a bunch of games that are not geared towards a modern audience, because they've been working on these titles for years. They're built for the modern audience. They're built around the modern audience. There was nothing that Sony could have done when it came to Concord to stop its epic failure, because from the very in and outs of that game was about the modern audience. All the character models, the ultimate evil being a white guy. I mean, it was literally extremely political, and this garbage has infected these organizations. Something that someone said is to never forgive, never forget. Even if they do change their way and try to go backwards, do not buy their garbage, do not support them, let their companies die. This is the only way that they will learn, okay? They're going to pass this on to all of us, guys. As I've said, we're going to see $80 games for new games come the PlayStation 6. Buy the PlayStation 6, new games will cost $80. Here's a poll that I actually just posted not too long ago. You can see at the time of making this video, it's only 54 minutes old. And it was basically, here on YouTube, it says, new games will cost $80 by the PS6 generation. 9% said they don't care. 9% said they don't know. 9% disagreed. A whopping 74% agree with that. 74%. And this is 292 votes. So pretty much everyone knows right now that PlayStation 6 games, Xbox Next games, for brand new games will cost $80 a pop, $79.99. And then, of course, when it comes to the ultimate versions of these games, you can expect those to easily cost anywhere from $150 to $200. I mean, many of them absolutely already do. If you want to get the gold version of the game, it's like $110 to $119. And if you want to get the ultimate version of the game, that will run you typically right now anywhere from 150 to 200. So when you do the math, it's already crazy when Ubisoft is already doing things like this. Don't be shocked when ultimate versions of the game now actually cost even closer to $300. I mean, we have gold, we have ultimate. So you know what? So what comes after ultimate? Mega. It's like Digimon, where you had like different bases, where you had this, you had like, you had the champion, you had champion. So that's basically like, and then and then after champion, you had ultimate, right? And then after ultimate, you had mega. So you had mega evolutions. And then I think even after Mega Evolutions, you also had something after Mega like God. So that's kind of like where they are heading right now, where it's just going to be one tier after another tier after another tier. Because I think the ultimate goal is to be able to sell you a game for anywhere from $300 to $500. Okay, so as to where you would previously get, an entire experience for just $50 for the last couple of decades, like $50, and then they jacked it up to 59, and now they jacked it up to 70, and they're going to be jacking it up to 80. And honestly, I could be absolutely wrong. They may just jack it all the way up to $90, because $79.99 right now is seeming a little bit cheap. We all know, we could see them going straight to $89.99, straight to $89.99 for new games, and saying that, well, if we want to use inflation, games should really cost about $100 right now. So it would not shock me if they went straight to $90 instead of $80. I could be absolutely wrong, because, for example, many of us thought that the new PlayStation, the PlayStation 5 Pro, was going to end up being $599, which was already way too much, and then they shocked the world by telling us, no, 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 it's actually going to be $700 with no stand, because you can't lay it down. You have to have the stand. So it's going to be $700 with no stand and no disk drive. $700. Like, when you put everything together, you're looking at about $1,000. Like, this is crazy. Absolutely insane. So, and that's just in the US. For Europe, it's actually $800. 800 for a console, 800 euros for a console that has no disk drive, no stand. Again, it is not something you can lay flat because of the way that they designed it. Like, this company has become a total piece of shit. So most people do believe that, this is pretty much the end, that games are going to be $80 by the PlayStation 6 generation. The good thing is that there are so many developers that are now pushing back. New developers will be launching, and new companies will be coming along that will, I truly believe, challenge Sony and potentially replace Sony. The real reason why so many people, including myself, have avoided PC gaming for so long is the complexity, where we want to be able to just, pop in a game, sit down, and play our games. The problem is that it's now become so restrictive. You're losing features left and right. Sony is stripping away even recent activity menus and so forth. They're making the experience absolutely terrible. Whoever's making these decisions, they hate their fan base. They hate gamers. But like I said, what's changing now is the hardware. Because of the kinds of processors that are coming, the new versions of Snapdragon processors that can support Windows, they have an overlay, they have a layer on top of them. We have things like Bazite. Bazite is basically another version. It's very similar to SteamOS. It has Proton integrated into it. Proton is a compatibility layer that allows you to basically play games that are designed for Windows on Linux based OSs. So for example, it's based on Linux, and then you have that compatibility layer that's baked into the actual software. And if you try to play a game that was designed for Windows, it just does all the work in the background, and you can basically play the game. And it's becoming an increasingly better experience. As a result of this, things are changing rapidly. We're going to see a lot of competition. We're already seeing companies like Samsung creating their own machines that, allow you to play games more accessibly. Amazon. Don't be shocked when you start to see these handhelds and even consoles coming from companies like Amazon, coming from Google again, but not just from them, but from companies like ASUS and so forth, where every gaming company pretty much has their own, or every company, and so many others basically having their own consoles right now that allow you to play Steam, because once you have access to Steam, you can play all of your games on GOG and so forth. And then they also begin releasing their own games on it as well. So they have their own stores, or they have their own games on a specific store like GOG and or Steam, and basically they make money that way. And the incentive to buy the incentive, or they'll have their own store, and the incentive to buy their console, their version, is because you may get access to exclusive games that are exclusive to their own brand. And this is absolutely insane. We're having a console, it's basically a console, and you can access games from all these other companies, and then you can play their games as well. And that's going to make a big difference. So that's going to be a new way of selling hardware. And Sony, they've really been dropping the ball lately when it comes to hardware design. Really, really been dropping the ball. The PlayStation 5 Pro, I don't give a damn what Digital Foundry says. These people are now a bunch of shills. They were basically purchased by the parent company of IGN, and as you can see, IGN, they're the same piece of crap company that gave Dragon Age, Valgard a 9. And this is the same kind. These are the same people that are censoring. Dragon Age developers are censoring anyone who gives the game a negative review. So yeah, guys, these shills are basically falling, and these companies need to die. Do not support them. Let them die off. Let them return to the darkness from whence they came.
I know recently we saw Yves Guillemot, the CEO of Ubisoft, attacking gamers, saying Star Wars Outlaws failed because gamers' expectations are too high. Yeah, our expectations are high. We do not want to be sold $70 piles of slop, and that is all we are getting from the mainstream AAA industry at this point. It's sad. It's pathetic. We want companies to do better. We want to have a reason to give them our money, but they just keep feeding us slop, and we keep throwing it back in their faces, and they gotta realize one day that this is not a winning strategy.
These companies that went woke need to die and disappear. They leverage so much hate at us, the consumer that has been supporting them for decades. They do not deserve our money, nor do they deserve our forgiveness. They are enemies. What do you guys think? Do you agree that these companies, many of them will die off, and they will be replaced by indie studios and basically developers who were fired from these companies that will now form their own smaller studios and put out banger after banger? So the modern gaming companies, the modern gaming industry is dying. There are people who are saying it's not dying. It is absolutely dying. And from the ashes, something new is going to rise. And we have a ton of great bangers from the past. I've been like, guys, I've dropped almost $1,000 in the last couple of weeks on GOG, on GOG. I now have a library on GOG of over 145 games, and that's insane. It took me months to build up my Steam library, and my Steam library is currently at around 218, so it's just over 200. It only took me a few weeks to build up my GOG library. Okay? Only took me a few weeks to build up my GOG library, and my attitude is kind of like, if it's not on GOG, I'm not buying it now. If it's on Steam, unless it has to be dirt cheap, like costing pennies, because I treat everything on Steam as just a rental now, because that's basically what they are, long-term rentals. GOG, on the other hand, is entirely built upon the principle that you actually own the things that you purchase. You actually own your games. You can download them. There's no DRM, and the versions that you download, the ones that are downloadable, they typically do not have multiplayer. Sometimes they do if it comes from the company, like the company that makes it may have their own multiplayer, but usually it does not have its own multiplayer. You can still like do things like add DLC to them and so forth, and do that stuff. But the great thing about it is these are offline games. So if these are typically offline games, another benefit is that it makes it much more difficult for you to be monitored, because you have to remember that agencies are now going after gamers. The F to the B to the I, they are monitoring gamers. They're putting protocols into place to monitor games, and monitor gamers. Oh, what games are you playing? How many hours have you been playing this game? What have you been saying in multiplayer? Stuff like that. But when you purchase your games on GOG, and this is something that I recommend every guy learn how to do, start using GOG, get into PC gaming. It's getting better. Learn about how processors work in GPUs so that you can figure out how to get the best gaming laptops. Also, buy it nice or buy it twice. I came really close to picking up an Omen laptop because it was a great deal. It was like 16 gigabytes. It was a 14-inch, 16 gigabytes. I believe it had an OLED display. It was only like $1,100 to $1,200 at Best Buy. They had a deal this past weekend, and it had a full keyboard, and I was so close to picking it up. I mean, I literally had my credit card, and I was like, I was going to order it. I was going to have it delivered to me, and I was just like, I just kept on doing more and more research. It had a 4060 processor, so the 40 is a part of the GeForce 40 series of processors. So they're the higher tier, they're the higher end processors. They have also the 30 series, and I think they have a 20 series as well. But yeah, I was very close to picking it up, and I was like, nah. I saw the one that I wanted, and I'm waiting to see if it gets a deal around Black Friday. I'm going. Some of you are like, you need to go for the Asus Strix. I do not want the Strix. I knew what I want. I want something small and light, and I'm going for the Transcend. I'm going for the Asus G16 Transcend. It has an OLED. It has an OLED display. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM. It's using the Ryzen 9. It's using a Ryzen 9 processor, and then for the GPU, it's using a 4070 GPU. So with everything paired together, it's a really good time. There are some people who are like, well, the performance could have been enhanced a bit, but that's something that has more to do with Armory Crate, and you can actually swap that out for another management system, which is what I'm going to use. I forget the name of it. I already took my notes. So I've been just learning back and forth, understanding how bottleneck, bandwidth, all of these things are playing a role. But of course, I have a background in computer science, so I just feel so it's like I feel like damn, I should have known these things long ago. When you have guys like Linus Tech Tips who just dropped out of school, and these guys are at the top tier. But for me, I've just been like digging in more and more, right down to understanding the dies, wafers, like the manufacturing process in the foundries, transistors, semiconductors, all of these different things. But I'm a tech guy, so I love this stuff, and I kind of think like this is my pathway because like many of you guys know, I have the Angry channel as well, and originally I was planning to that was going to be my gaming and anime channel, and I think that it's still going to be my gaming and anime channel because like I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about what's happening in the world right now between the relationships between men and women and stuff like that, but it gets exhausting. It gets very, very exhausting discussing this stuff constantly. And but at the same time, I still do enjoy talking about this, but I want better balance in my life, and I feel like that's kind of where I'm going. I'm still building out my newsletter business, my blog business, my blogging business. That's like one of my biggest things right now because I'm going so hard on that. And it's like, you're creating all of these things because basically Gen X, we were raised as the post-apocalyptic generation. One of the reasons why I'm buying all of these games on GOG right now is because I'm setting myself up for when everything goes to hell. You know, I love also owning things, but I'm setting myself up for when everything goes to hell. Have a hard drive, have these things backed up on the cloud, have these things backed up on a hard drive. I'm preparing for hell. I'm preparing for the apocalypse. Buying up a bunch of Nintendo DS games, getting a shell that holds around 48 games right now, and then another one that holds I think it's like 100, maybe 120. And then going and little by little acquiring as many of these games as I can, the bangers. I'm preparing for hell. Having solar electricity, solar panels, knowing the ins and outs of these solar panels, how they're designed, the kind of silicone that they use in them, so that I can repair it myself, make changes and tweaks to them if I need to. Yeah, guys, we're the post-apocalyptic generation, 100%. Like they say, we're the ones who survive. Like Gen Xers right now that are not preparing for hell on Earth, they're not gonna make it because they know damn well we were told growing up that there was not going to be any future. That we were not going to see adulthood. Either Jesus would have come by then, or humanity would have destroyed itself by then. But don't expect to have children and have your own family, because you're not going to live that long. This is the kind of garbage that Gen X was fed. So we were raised for hard times. We are the ones who survived. We are the ones who made it. Okay? This is nothing new for us. The boomers gave us such hard and painful lives. They messed us up so bad that those of us that are still here are the ones that are just trucking along. So this is nothing new for us. Like the world and the crappy way that it is. And not all Gen Xers are great. There's some that slip through the cracks. But we don't talk about it at all. There's a bunch of Gen Xers that are still here that slipped through the cracks. Okay? They absolutely did. But a lot of those, I don't know, there's something about these sleazeballs. Like this, I don't know how the hell they keep on getting on. All right? Because it's like I just don't know. I just don't know. Karen and Kevin, how the hell are you guys still around? How are you still around? But I mean, this is just the reality, guys, that we are in. These companies that have gone woke and are going broke, do not forgive them. Let them die off, let them suffer, and let them feel our wrath, because they are our enemies. And that's how I view things right now. You know, I will not have empathy for my enemies anymore unless people change and they actually repent. It's not happening. We don't have that time. We don't have time to negotiate, because these people are just, everyone is just basically out to get you right now. It's not a joke. It's the truth. It's so funny because people are saying that like Gen X was actually like a CIA project or something along the line to raise like a super soldier generation, a generation that could survive just about anything. It's funny, but it's true. What do you guys think regarding all of this? All of the developers over at Concord have been fired. Those bastards no longer have jobs. But I don't think that this is over. If anything, it's just beginning. We're going to see more and more woke games for coming for years. More and more of these studios shutting down for years. More, and the battle between gamers and companies is only going to get worse. These companies are going to be lashing out harshly at the gamers for not buying their trash. And, you know, Sweet Baby Inc. is not going anywhere until, for at least not for now. Maybe they may eventually shut down and then rebrand, and then, like, you know, because they've infected these companies. They've changed the philosophy of these companies. And if you, for example, decide that you don't want to put diversity in games right now, you're seen as the most evil thing in the evil person in the entire world, and you will be fired. That's what people in the companies like are saying right now. The developers of the company are like, if you don't want to include diversity, you'll be seen as the most evil person in the world. So many of these companies are not going anywhere, but they will be replaced as companies from the east, and you know, indie studios pop up, and they basically make games that people just want to enjoy, like Elden Ring. What do you guys think regarding all of this? Are you surprised that, you know, Firewalk Studios, the piece of crap company that made Elden Ring, has been shut down? All the employees have been fired, and the piece of crap company that made Concord has been shut down, and all the employees have been fired. Elden Ring is lit. And you know, Concord will not be coming back. It cost Sony $500 million. Do you agree that Sony's just going to pass the cost on to us, and we will be looking at $80 games when the PlayStation 6 finally does arrive? I want to say if, but I do think it's going to happen. You know, do you agree $80 or even $90 games? Let me know. I wouldn't be surprised if they would go up to 100, but I don't know if they will. But I honestly think that we could see $90 games. I think they'll jump right past 80 and go straight for 90, 89.99. Okay? Like, don't be shocked if the next GTA, and that's what I think. I truly think like the next GTA 5, like GTA 6 won't even launch for $70. I think it's going to launch for 79.99. But let me know what you guys think. We'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA. Man walking away. And cheers.